Matthew Stafford makes his return home to the Motor City. We got the Rams, Lions. The Detroit Lions are a 3.5-point favorite in this game. All right, offensively, this team has been a juggernaut for the majority of this season, and their defense is pretty solid. They're really good against the run. They got a pretty good pass rush led by Aiden Hutchinson, but their secondary is not great. Like their secondary has been cooked chicken all year long. And even with having a couple of guys coming back healthy, that still isn't going to improve this secondary all that much. And going up against Matthew Stafford and this LA Rams passing attack, there's a lot of things that you got to worry about if you're a Lions fan with this secondary. Like, how are you going to be able to slow down Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp fully healthy? What's going to be your answer for trying to figure out how you can make Matthew Stafford look inefficient in this game? And plus, how are you going to be able to slow down Sean McVay and how well he is at calling plays? Like, with how bad this Lions secondary is, the Rams have more than a great chance at being able to win this game. And I'm really surprised that a lot of people are underestimating LA in this game. I can understand if the Detroit Lions had a complete defense, if their secondary was good and their front seven was great, but they only have one of those things, which is a pretty good front seven. Their back end is really questionable. And because of that, the Rams are going to be able to score points on this defense, and they're going to be able to do it fairly easily. Like, you got to remember, the Detroit Lions went on the road to Baltimore and got their ass beat. The LA Rams gave the Baltimore Ravens one of the closest games in Baltimore that any other team has been able to give Baltimore outside of the Cleveland Browns. And yes, they lost that game, but that was probably the best offensive performance that any team has had this season against that Ravens defense without getting any help from turnovers. So because of how good the LA Rams offense has performed as of late, especially with them getting back Kyron Williams, who is outstanding running back, he may be the most impactful running back of this NFL season. When he went down with that injury, the Rams were averaging somewhere around 14 to 17 points per game. Since he's returned, they're averaging like around 24, 27 points per game. Kyron Williams is going to be a huge part of this Rams offense. And Detroit, you got to make sure that you allocate a lot of resources to slowing this dude down, which you got a really good rushing attack. Well, you got a really good run defense. All right, you got one of the best run defenses in the National Football League. But are you going to be able to minimize his effectiveness in the passing game also? What if the Rams find a way to get him the ball based on screen plays, or if they line him out wide and they try to get him the football in space in the passing game? Do you have the personnel to be able to just minimize Kyron Williams' effect on this game completely? Because everybody pays attention to Stafford, Kupp, and Puka Nacua, but you got to also pay attention to Kyron Williams. He really is the big X factor for LA in this game. All right? So the Rams offensively, they're going to be a handful for Detroit to handle on the defensive side of things. But when we flip to the other side of the football and we look at the Detroit Lions offense against this Rams defense, you also like this matchup. The Detroit Lions offense has been one of the best in the NFL. They're led by Ben Johnson, who is going to end up being a head coach in a couple of months. Jared Goff has played at a really high level. You got tons of talent at wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We don't know about Sam Laporta's status for this game, but you still have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. There's a lot of things that Detroit throws at you. Not just from a schematic standpoint, but from a personnel standpoint as well, with how deep they are offensively. Like Jameson Williams. The Rams defense has been really good, and it has exceeded my expectations. You got to give a lot of praise to Raheem Morris in this job that he's done with this fairly young defense. The majority of the Rams' best players on the defense side of the football, outside of Aaron Donald, are rookies. Kobe Turner, Byron Young are both two rookie pass rushers for the Rams that should be in the Rookie of the Year conversation for defense. And with how good these young rookies have played this season, you're going to be asking a lot of those guys in a game like this in the playoffs to be able to step up and make big plays and get pressure on Jared Goff when he has one of the best offensive lines in the National Football League protecting him. And there aren't really too many offensive lines that we've seen this season that you can consider to be elite. There's only about 3 or 4 of them, and the Detroit Lions fit that description. They're definitely in that conversation. That back end of the Rams secondary is not weak. I like their back end more than I like the Detroit Lions back end. But when you're going up against this offense of Detroit that's really efficient, that can kill you in a quick game and also can beat you throwing the football downfield, I just wonder with your lack of pass rush outside of Aaron Donald and having some young rookies that you're going to be heavily reliant on, just are you going to be able to slow down the deep passing attack of Detroit when they go to it and they want to take shots downfield, because you know Jared Goff is going to have time to throw the football. Now, the biggest thing for me when it comes to determining who's going to win this game is going to be coaching. All right, Dan Campbell, how is his decision making going to be? Because we know this dude has that risk it, no biscuit mentality. He likes to take a lot of chances. But the problem with having this aggressive mindset is that it can cost you when you're going up against a coach like Sean McVay, who normally is pretty good when it comes to having a good feel of the game, knowing when to go for it, knowing when to just go ahead and take the points or punting the football away. Sean McVay has a huge coaching advantage over Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, he's one of those coaches that his emotions dictate his decision making. And we got a good example of that when they lost to the Dallas Cowboys. This fool went for it 3 straight times on that 2-point conversion when he probably should have just opted for the extra point after they didn't get it the second time. And they got bailed out by that offsides penalty by Michael Parsons. Those kinds of aggressive decisions that don't plan out for you could cost you in a game like this when you're going against a well-coached team like the LA Rams led by Sean McVay. And I just don't have a lot of confidence that Dan Campbell is going to make the great decisions or the best decisions when this game is on the line, when things get close. I'm picking the Rams to win. This is my upset of the wild card weekend. Listen, the Rams are just as good as a team, talent-wise, as what the Detroit Lions is, minus the talent that they have on the interior of the offensive line and the defensive line. But their offensive line is still going to be able to hold up pretty well. And I just can't trust Dan Campbell going up against Sean McVay. If this was any other head coach that he was going up against in the first round, if they were going up against Nick Sirianni or Mike McCarthy or Todd Bowles or somebody like that, then I would pick the Lions to get the win. But you see, coaching is a big factor in these kinds of playoff games. And for the Rams, Sean McVay has been probably the best coach in the NFL. Nobody even thought that the Rams would be as good as what they've been up to this point. Hell, majority of people thought that they were going to be in the tank for Caleb Williams sweepstakes. The reason why they've been able to overachieve this year has been because of the great job that Raheem Morris and Sean McVay have done, getting the most out of the majority of the young players that they have on this roster. And I believe that that continues with the fact that you got Matthew Stafford with the fully healthy offense. All of your best playmakers are going to be healthy, especially when you look at Cooper Kupp being healthy and what Puka Nacua is going to be able to do against this Detroit Lions secondary that was giving up big play touchdowns to CeeDee Lamb not too long ago. I can't trust Detroit in this game. The Rams also do have a pretty good run defense. Now, even though David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are still going to get theirs, you know, I like this Rams defense to get some big stops late in this game. I expect this to be a high-scoring affair. I'll take LA 31, Detroit 27, and that's my final score prediction for this matchup.